Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another week here at Wired Differently. We have me, Christina Blue Hooper, your business designer, Victoria the Queen Caldwell, fractional COO and expert at all things people systems, and mindset, Melanie Branch, your expert at taming your brain and getting it to do what you need to do. Well, I tripped all up over on that this morning, didn't I? Woo!
Yeah, I did change my title thing here. Maybe that threw you off. Well, we'll just blame it on
Maybe. I think it usually says fractional COO, so that's what it was.
And
I'm used to my cues. I'm used to my little cue cards.
Just like, what? She didn't.
It's that kind of morning, y'all. It's like rainy and gloomy and all the things over here. So, which is a good time to talk about this topic. Yeah, cold. Like, I didn't even know it got cold again. Everybody was like, the house is really cold right now. And I'm like, last time I went outside, it was 75 degrees in short sleeves. Like, why are we in the 40s again?
Exactly. Man, I turned my heat back on the other day after having, I turned my heat back on after having the AC on for a week.
Yeah. Like, I have mine set for like the smart thermostat, so it keeps it within a range. So during like the hot weather, I let that range get a little colder, so it keeps the house, colder overnight, stays warm, whatever. And it was like, so it was letting the house get to like 67 degrees. I, of course, with all my hot flashes and stuff, was comfortable. So I was like, I didn't even realize it was cold. I was good. But everybody else is like, I'm freezing and bundling up in blankets and stuff out there in the living room. And I'm like, why? It's been nice outside. And they're like, no, it's not. It's like in the 40s outside. I'm like, when? Do you not look at the thermostat? I'm like, I don't go outside, y'all.
It was like, have you not been outside?
Yeah, I go outside like once a month when it's my turn to do groceries. That's like it. Anyway, today's topic is a good one. I'm really kind of excited about this one because this is something that I didn't really fully understand the implications of until Queen V got into my business, got up into my stuff, and started being like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Right? So we're talking about finding your flow and how to get into alignment so you can stop overthinking and you can start moving forward. And this is something that happens, like my own personal experience with this was with the academy, right? And it's like, I had kind of the big vision for what we were doing, the big mission, but I didn't have the like immediate vision. I had the 10-year vision, not the like 6 month, 1 month vision or 6 month, 1 year vision. And I was just starting to feel overwhelmed by it. I was starting to feel like I could do like this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I was all over the place and I was retreating and kind of sticking back into building and ideating and not executing and not marketing, not selling, not doing. And Victoria's like, what are you doing? What do you want this to be? What do you want for students? What do you want them to accomplish? What is the goal? Like, why are you afraid of this doing what it needs to do? And I was like, I don't know. Wait, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And we pulled it down.
And I think this episode is, going to be very like raw and transparent, which we are. We're very transparent about what we're doing here and how it's going and how we're interacting. And, as somebody said, we're 3 alphas here. Total different strains, totally different ways of thinking about some things. And what was happening that led up to that was we would keep trying to, especially Melanie and I, we were just moving things forward. And then we would just get in these meetings and things weren't moving. Melanie's totally like over us. Like she's so over us at that point.
Yeah, like those mindset gremlins need to be like, what is going on? We've tamed them all. What is happening? And I kept thinking it was a mindset thing because I've been working with Melanie for a couple of years. I was like, it's got to be a mindset thing. I've got to be like something mental gremlin-y is stopping me.
Yeah.
Well, remember when you heard, here's the big breakthrough. When you found out that big picture thinking was actually perfectionism, because you had been working with different people in ChatGPT and everybody was calling you a perfectionist and you're like, I don't care if things are done right. I don't care about this. But then finally ChatGPT was like, big picture thinking is your way of not pulling the trigger and doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I was working towards it, but I only saw the value in like the 10-year vision. I didn't see the value in the 6 month version, right? Because I can see what's missing.
Yeah.
So like
and it's not that we don't see it. We just don't. And we had this conversation last night. last week, where what the academy is. I said, I see it as that now. I just see it as a different version. It's like a baby version of the adult. You're still Christina. You're just a baby Christina versus, and you're like, well, in terms of the analogy, I don't know why I don't see it as Christina yet. But I see, okay, this is baby Christina. This might be toddler Christina. This might be, teenager Christina. I see where it's going to get to there. And she sees, I only see grown adult Christina. Anything else is not Christina. And that's another, it's an analogy, but it was a good, conversation. I was like, no, I see it this way. But it also, it affects the decisions you make and the stress that you put on yourself.
Yeah. And that was where you guys challenged me to like, what would you consider like a complete version at this stage, right? Because the 10-year version is big and massive and huge, and it's going to take time to build, right?
Yeah.
I basically froze the whole business trying to build that instead of being like, okay, well, what is stage 1? What does a complete version, a complete package at stage 1 look like? And then stage 2, and then stage 3, like breaking it down into a smaller bite that has the value that I want it to have now instead of later. That was the perfectionism part coming into play, because it's like I only saw it as complete and done and worthy of being sold when the 10-year version was complete. And I couldn't see it.
You realize that 10-year version takes 10 years.
Imagine that.
Our brain says that, but her brain wasn't saying it for some reason. I don't know. But it's like you realize the 10-year version takes 10 years.
I think it's a time blindness thing, because like I see it as a 10-year vision, but the pieces that are needed to build it, I feel like would only take me a few weeks. And like, even if I'm wrong, maybe like a few months. And like in 6 months, I could have it built.
We also discovered a very important aspect of flow when it comes to working in a team of, and Victoria, you really help with this because of the test that you make everybody take. And I'm a star and you're a this and she's a that. And so we can really see everybody's strengths and everybody's weaknesses. And so we've decided over the past however long we've been working together, who's involved in what, right? So it's not productive for us to all three get together and ideate all the stuff that we want to do, because I want to make it happen. I don't care what everybody wants to do. I want to be like, all right, guys, let's put on our walking shoes and let's make it happen. So if I'm in the ideating meetings, then I'm going to fall out of love with the concept before it's time to even pull the trigger on it. And you guys need me to pull the trigger on it. So we've learned when we work together, who needs to be involved in what. Just let me know if I need to be involved in this conversation. If I don't even want to know about it. That's fine. Let me be over here. Tell me when it's my time to go on stage, coach. So really being able to figure out where does everybody find their flow and how can we make them do more of that and less of the other stuff.
And and even before we got there, because I knew that part, what was hard was we would get in these meetings, right? And we would be trying to help flesh out these ideas, and then Melanie leaves the chat, and then because she's like, okay, I'm done for today. Yeah. Thank you, you guys. You'll figure it out. And then Melanie's just got to the point where, you know what, I'm just going to leave her to you. And so,
because I like the ideating, and Melanie likes the execution, and Victoria excels at the in between. Like, let's figure out what the idea is and how we're going to get it executed.
What happened one day, Melanie, you had already left the chat. So it was like, I finally said, what do you want? And that was the thing, because what was not clear was what she actually wanted. And I'm like, okay, you need to go figure this out. And then she went and figured it out. So it's like, who are you and what do you want? Because if that is not clear, the rest of this thing is not going. We're going to keep spinning the wheels because we got all of these great ideas. They're just not moving because If she's not feeling it, it's not moving.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen. And so we need to know what she wants. And that's how it should be. But you got to know what you want and where we're going. Like, you leave that vision. We can get the execution done. But if we don't know where we're going, and everything is like, well, I don't want this. And I finally realized that, what do you actually want? Because we got 3 million ideas and we got all of this and you're shutting them all down. So something is missing. What do you want? And she's like, oh, okay.
Like that scene in The Notebook. What do you want? Over and over and over again.
I love that movie, by the way. And that's the question that we have to ask ourselves. And I think a lot of our missed decisions and all of the things, misalignment, comes down to lack of clarity on who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
Because you're so busy doing stuff. You're doing what this person tells you to do. You're doing what that person tells you to do. You're doing what everybody tells you. You don't even have time to stop, or you don't take the time to stop because nobody tells you to say, they do say get clear on your vision or whatever. And then they give you a whole bunch of stuff that's probably not even aligned with who you are and where you want to go. But the thing is, it's very easy to pass over that stuff.
It's easy to like do the worksheet and not do the work.
I like that.
I mean, that's like, we all get these things, right? Like, I think almost any entrepreneur who's been around for any length of time has been handed a mission, vision, values worksheet. You've gone through a training, you filled in the sheet. But the actual application of that and the impact of not bringing that into the day-to-day, I think that's a big part of what people miss out on.
Yeah.
Because like, I would never have considered that the reason I was struggling to do the things I needed to do and to get past some stuff I needed to get past was because I didn't have a clearly defined mission, vision, values, and I wasn't fulfilling it. I wasn't living up to it. I would have never thought that the lack of application on that worksheet, because that's how I thought about it before that all happened, it was just a worksheet. It's one of those things you just do, you file away, you're like, okay, cool. Or maybe like you do it once a year, like part of your annual planning. Like, let's review our mission, vision, value statements, and then let's get to work on, what we're doing this year. And you just do the worksheet, not the work.
Right. And the work is what determines everything else.
Yeah.
Like, that is how we know where we're going. That's how we know who to bring on our team. That's how we know who our clients are. That's how we know the business that we're building. It really, when it comes to the people side, it's really how you get people bought into it, aligned with, and because when they come on, they know what their role is and how they're going to help get us there. And for people, let's say for team members, if we want, everybody wants top talent. Everyone wants the one. But one of the top, let's say this is a corporate one of the top challenges with leadership is misalignment.
Yeah.
The leaders or in the team are not moving. They don't really even know what to come. They just got a job. They show up to get a check and that's it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're building towards. So you're not going to get people who are so passionate, because what are they passionate about? Getting a check? They don't see how their job is driving something forward. They don't see how their work has more purpose and meaning than just showing up. They're coming, just doing a job. They're disconnected from it. They don't care. And then you're like, why can't I get them to perform? They don't know where you're going. And then that trickles down into how the business is moving and the environment and everything. It seems like it's arbitrary, but it literally sets the stage for everything else. You want to partner with things, other companies, and partner with other entrepreneurs. You're going to partner with people who, this was a big one because she fought me on the mission, vision, and value. She did it. But she's like, I just don't see why, I've done these before, and, I don't really see the value in it. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago till it really hit, when we have all of our mentors and they all were like bought in, but they were bought into the mission and the vision, and they were aligned with the values. nothing else. And she's like, oh my gosh. But did I get resistance? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes sense now. Like,
and I didn't really understand how it shapes your products and your services either, right? And as a business designer, like I literally help people plan their product stacks. What are you selling? Who are you selling it to? How are you going to sell it? How does it feel good to you? How does it feel good to them? Like, and I go through that whole thing, making sure it feels good. But when we have mission, vision, values added to that, it kind of shapes the how we're going to do it, right? Your products and services is the how.
I love how your cat joins the show every week now.
They are, yeah, I know. Like, I don't know what it is with these two.
Like she's got a microphone on her.
Yeah, as soon as they've all been quiet and being good until literally we pressed record, and then she started. She hasn't yelled in 2 days.
She's a
until I
diva.
pressed record.
She's a star like me.
Like, we're on. We're on.
Apparently, little tuxedo kitty. Oh,
So what's
man.
our first question?
Well, I was going to, finishing the one little thought that I had real quick. When you know what your mission is and how it shapes your products and services, like, I had that mission to make the entrepreneurial journey faster, easier, and more successful for students. But when we started looking at how that shapes product development, that's how the Yellow Brick Road was born. That's how we said, okay, we want to get you from figuring out who you are, what you do, that kind of stuff, to 10 case study level clients. So it actually starts playing into your product development and how you deliver your services and what you're going to deliver if you're staying in alignment with what you're doing. So that was my last little point. The cat interrupted. All right. So our first question here, I feel like I'm doing all the things, but I'm not making like real progress. How do I know if misalignment is the problem? Right? Because like I thought some of my stuff was mindset problems, and there was a little bit of that, right? Mindset's always a thing. But it was also mission, vision, values. How do you know that that's what's going on?
Well, our example is a perfect example, and it's no better. One, we're doing a lot of stuff, but we're not moving forward. We're doing a lot of stuff. We keep ideating on stuff, but we're not moving forward. Stress, burnout, overwhelm, lack of clarity, pain in the butt clients, PETA clients. Team members that, well, it could be team troubles. So all of the things that most people think are attributed to something else, not making, again, attracting not ideal clients. And how are you going to know what the ideal clients are if you don't know what your mission is, your vision is, or whatever? Because those ideal clients are going to be bought into that. They're going to be like, I like this person. I like the way they think. I think the exact same way. And then when they're trying to make a decision between you and someone else, when they're in alignment with you, it makes it an easy decision, because no one likes to talk about mission and vision values until after you pay. One of even my mentors, they said, they're doing 7, 8, 10-figure businesses. They never talk about it until they get someone in their paid program, because they wouldn't sell it. That's how much resistance there is to it. And yet that's where they start. It's just that hard to get people to see the value in. And it's usually not until they realize by experience, because they, like you said, do the worksheet, but not the work. And then you realize, oh, I'm getting the right partners. Oh, I'm getting the right clients all of a sudden. Oh, I'm getting the right team members all of a sudden. Then it starts to make sense. And so everything kind of builds. So when you're having those, the stress, the burnout, the overwhelm, the feel like you're spinning your wheels, you keep attracting the wrong clients, keep attracting the wrong team members, and you're just not moving forward. Something is out of line.
Stuck in an ideating loop, stuck with the wrong people in your world, stuck not actually taking
Tiny
action.
object syndrome is another one.
Yeah.
Because when you're clear, you know what is something you need to do and something you need to leave alone, because it's not in alignment. It's not what you say yes to, is what you say no to.
Yeah.
And
I
you
think,
should be saying no a whole lot more than saying yes. So this is your cheat sheet to say, is this going to help me get here? If
yeah.
it's not, out it goes. If it is, how is it going to help me get there? And is this going to be a better decision than something else? So then you start to prioritize in that case. And if you don't know, then you got to figure out, well, how would it help me get there? So when somebody, because everybody is going to, especially when you start growing your business, someone's always going to come to you and want you to help them build their thing because they like what you're doing. But you have to decide, is this going to be in alignment with what I'm doing and what I'm building?
Yeah.
And if you
I
say
think
yes,
we see a lot of people copying what they see other people do
right.
all of the time. Like, if this is working for them, it should work for me, because like they like this person, they aspire to this person, and they start trying to like copy what that person's doing, and it's not authentic to them. It's not in alignment with their mission, vision, values. And I think like one of the things that was a big struggle for me, and I think this is great having both of you here for this conversation, is as a high masking, late diagnosed autistic ADHD woman, I didn't know who I was. I'm still learning. I'm still meeting me. I'm still finding me.
That's all of
Because
us.
my entire personality was a mask, right? And this is a lot of women, but it's specifically autistic women, because we get taught like very early on we can't be and exist the way that feels natural to us. So when you ask me those questions, like, okay, well, you know, who are you? What do you want? And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
It's also hard when we've been, you know, programmed to be valuable based on what we can do for others, right? You got to be productive 24/7. How can you maximize your time? How can you maximize what you get done? La 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 la, right? Like you get stressed out when you get that lump in your throat and you know you're getting a cold and you know you need to go to bed early tonight, but your brain won't let you shut down to take the rest because you made yourself sick. It's that permanent hustle mode.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, I mean, I think it's even higher if you're autistic or different, I guess, in that capacity, if your mind is wired differently. But it's the same. I had to literally sit down because I spent so much of my life people pleasing.
Yes. Yeah. Overperforming, overfunctioning,
overgiving, because I didn't know who I was, especially after my divorce. I had to sit down, and it took a long time because I spent a long time being out of alignment and not authentic. That's why authenticity is one of my top values, because you have to be who you are. But if you don't know, it's a good time to sit and like who are you? One of the questions I ask, who are you without all of these expectations? And it's not going to come immediately for most of us. Some of us.
I mean, I heard that question from you. Like, what has it been, about a month now? Yeah. And I'm like, I still don't think I can answer that question, because it was like, who are you uninterrupted? Who are you if nobody stops you and you can just do what you want to do, be who you want to be, and like run around? And I'm like, I don't know, because that just, to me, that's never going to actually happen.
And that's when we put Melanie on her.
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's always going to be interruptions. There's always going to be life popping in. There's always going to be stuff happening. So it's hard to realize, you know, it's hard to be like, who would I be in this like theoretical fantasy world?
And the thing is,
like, my brain likes to be in reality
world. It's about authenticity. It's like, it's not saying that these things won't happen. The interruptions won't happen. Again, that's where she goes, you know, the way her brain is wired, she goes extra literal on it. Where the statement is not a literal statement. So she's going to go literal. But what it means is, who are you in your most authentic version of yourself? And let me tell you, it's not something that you usually come up with. You're going to constantly be figuring this out over time, a lot of times, because if you haven't done it for 40 years, you're not just going to come up and think, oh, I got it. You might learn pieces. I'm still developing that. And I write and I'm like, okay, no, not that. and some of it is through experience. And then as you keep working at it, you grow gradually into this person. You're already that person, but you start to express in that way. And you can see, this is why I like what I do so much, because you get to see the transition from someone not knowing this to someone actually embodying it. And just like I see that person in the beginning, most of the time, just like I'll say, okay, well, you're still that person. You're just a little bit in the rough right now. Just like I see the academy, it's like you're just in this stage. You just have to keep going until it clicks.
Yeah.
So
I think the closest, like, my literal brain gets to an answer to that question is, what am I tired of apologizing for? Right? Like, what am I tired of putting energy into changing? Like, I am never going to be somebody who responds to an email quickly after you send me an email. It's going to be a day or two. It's just going to be a day or two. It might even be a week or two. I'm sorry. Right? Like, I'm not going to keep trying to change that. If I can respond to you within a day or two, then cool. Like, that's goals. I'm not going to try and respond same day.
And that's fine. And like the only thing is communicating to people.
Yeah. Well, and setting that standard. And that was something that one of our mentors talks about, where it's like, this is how you train your client, how you train the people around you, that this is me, this is who I am, right? And we forgive these kind of tendencies and traits in other people all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just them. They're just a little quirky. Or, they're late to everything. It's okay. They'll be here in 10 minutes. It's fine. They're going to be 10, 15 minutes late to every single thing. I forgive those behaviors in other people all of the time. But when I'm 10 minutes late to everything, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I feel horrible about it. Somebody else, though, I'm like, you're 10 minutes late every time. It's fine. I'm used to it. We're good. Yeah. So it's like, that to me is kind of like the more literal version of who am I interrupted? Like, what am I not going to apologize for anymore? This is just who I am.
Yeah.
I'm that person who's 10 minutes late to everything. Always.
Yeah.
It just is. Right.
And you set expectations, and it's like, and you can build your systems around that to support that.
I mean, my extra level of burnout that happens trying to avoid being 10 minutes late for things is just like, now I just roll with it. Like, even if it's a doctor's visit, I'm like, they usually have a 10-minute window. If I get there at 11 minutes after and they tell me I have to reschedule, I'm just going to reschedule. It's fine. Because I was putting myself through so much stress and extra burnout and extra exhaustion trying to not be that person who's 10 minutes late. And it's just not worth it.
This happened with one of my friends recently, because she's ADHD, and she gets super, we've been friends for over 20 years, 25 years, close to 30. And 25 years. And she, every single time, she's going to be at least a half hour late, at least. And she works herself up so much, going up to the point. But here's what I do. I already know this. One, we tell her it's not that serious. Don't worry about it. Get there when you get there. Now, if we have a reservation, when the other one, who's never late, was late, I'm like, this is no excuse for you because you're never late. And then, there was a whole story behind that. However, when I made the reservations, I made it knowing and accommodating this for her. Now, what I also did, because I have a tendency to people please and overgive, when they didn't communicate with me, I left. Because when they communicated, they said, we're just leaving. I've already been here 15 minutes. It's going to take you another hour to get here. I'm not going to wait. So I'm not going to be here for an hour and a half when you could have communicated to me what happened before. So mine is, I accommodated her, but I also accommodated me. So I'm not going to enable yours and take away mine. That's what I had to learn. The old me would have sat there for an hour and a half because of it, and I would have been really upset. I said, well, how do I do this? I accommodate you. All you had to do is send me a text and tell me this. I would have left my house an hour later. That's it. So I took care of myself and I took care of her too. But that was how I dealt with the overgiving, because if you have this, you also have to look from a people side is how does this behavior affect the person on the other end, right? So if you're only thinking about yourself, there's a problem. And so when doctors, they say they got you gotta, cancel, you're like, I'll just, reschedule or whatever. They give you a 15-minute grace period because things happen. That's fine, but they're also going to protect themselves in the process. So for people who are over givers and over whatever like this, when you're going to have the accommodations for other people, make sure that you also have the boundaries for yourself. And also, when you're doing that and you're accepting that part of yourself, communicate that to the other person so they can make a decision about how they want to do it. It was the lack of communication for me on that end, because there was absolutely no reason for it not to happen. So, you had a whole hour to tell me, matter of fact, several hours to tell me that, hey, I'm not going to be in the car at this time, So you're constantly learning, and I think you're constantly, and I'm constantly learning and unlearning things that I would do, like you said, what I'm not going to apologize for, and things that I'm not going to continue to do that don't serve me, that don't honor me. But I can do both. I can honor you and honor me.
Yeah. I think we're kind of leaning into a little bit of our next question here too. So like, why do I keep second guessing myself and overthinking every decision, right? Is it part of being neurodivergent, or is there a way to stop this cycle? And again, I love that I have both of you, because I feel like it hits in both of your worlds, this question.
I think so too. I think a lack of clarity, again, a lack of clarity on who you are, what you want, is what's going to happen. Because again, and when you lack the clarity, you're going to be taking in a whole lot of information, and everybody's going to be telling you so many different things. You got shiny objects over here. One person says do this and it's going to work great, and the other one says do this, it's going to rate, but you can't make a decision because you got all of these options. And you got all of these options because you don't have the clarity on where you want to go. Once you get clarity, some of those things will start to fall off because they're not going to make sense for you.
Yeah.
And
clarity, that's where the mission, vision, values operate.
We can have a similar, whatever, but the way I go about it, the way you go about it, and the way Melanie is going to go about it is going to be different, because we're all built differently. We are wired differently. That's why every time I'm taking something from a creator, I have to modify it. I've been doing it from the very beginning, because things creators build tend to work or built toward the way creators flow. I don't flow that way. So I'm constantly modifying. If I like it, I have to modify it, because there's not a lot of people like me doing that kind of stuff, because we naturally like being behind the scenes, running the execution, the operation, the team, or whatever. That's just naturally where we thrive and want to be. So it's harder to find examples of people. I could pick us out of a haystack, right? Because it's just the same frequency. I know my people. It's like creators know their people. But
Melanie says, don't take advice from someone who has a wife if you are the wife.
Well, it has a lot to do with confidence too. And if you have no clarity, then you're stuck in this cycle of like, what if I make the wrong choice? What if I make the wrong decision? And this is what I always ask my clients when they're in that loop. And I say, has there ever been a moment in time where you made a decision and right there in that moment, somebody came down from the heavens and said, wrong, that's the wrong choice? I said, no. If you make a wrong choice, quote unquote, which I don't even really believe is possible, it's much farther down the line in reflection when you're like, well, I probably could have done X, Y, Z. But again, if you have the confidence because you know your mission, vision, and values, and you know what you're going towards, just make the decision and stop the overthinking. Overthinking is just another way of procrastinating.
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, I think it adds goalpost and guardrail, which is like one of my favorite things, right? It's one of the exercises I walk every single student through is goalpost and guardrails. And it's like mission, vision, values is a part of that. You know, it's where do you want to go and what are the guardrails you're putting up to make sure that you stay heading that direction. Yeah. And it's like I feel like entrepreneurship is like a playground with no rules, right? It's the playgrounds that we grew up playing on with those hot metal slides and, you know, the merry-go-rounds that would fling you off into a concussion. And, you know, it's like they turned us loose for every splinter, burn, you know, whatever back in the world. It was a playground with no rules. And the problem with that is a lot of us need rules and guidelines. We need something to follow to be like, to know if we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And as entrepreneurs, we don't have those. Yeah. They don't just come. Nobody hands us this manual that says this is the rule book for being an entrepreneur. I mean, like we kind of give people at the academy a version of it. But the thing about being an entrepreneur is it can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that also means that it can be nothing if you don't do it right. It can never take shape. It can be that Play-Doh that just never really does what you're trying to get it to do. And you have no idea how to get it to do it. I feel like I'm using so many metaphors here, but it's just free for all most of the time. And when you start adding these mission, vision, values, you start giving it structure to build within. You start giving your world some rules so that you know what to work within. And I think that helps with the second guessing and the overthinking because you just turn back to that. Right? Like, is this thing I'm wanting to do in alignment with my mission, vision, values? Is it in alignment with what I'm trying to do with my clients? Is it in alignment with what I want for myself? Right? Like we talk about creating that harmony between yourself, your clients, and your business all of the time. Those three things have to be in harmony all of the time or it doesn't work. Right?
And you need that accountability. See, and entrepreneurship is also very lonely. So if you don't have, like we have each other, and somebody like me who thrives in structure, because that's how I get things done. It's like when you have someone out there, which is why I say, you know, one creator for me, because this is just for the birds, right? So you go and somebody has to constantly be back, like, what are you doing? Okay. Oh, I'm thinking about doing, and it's not necessarily here, but I'm thinking about doing this because creators do this to their second in commands all the time. I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about doing this, thinking about doing this. And somebody has to say, okay, well, what about this?
Did you finish your to-do list from last week?
Did you finish your to-do list from last week? Or how is this going to get us there? And eventually, I mean, it takes a while. There's some training that happens to where before you come with that, you start to, well, it's a great idea.
Like I'm not even going to bring this to Victoria and Melanie until I can say like, okay, I finished this, and this. Now can I do this?
Yeah, it gets to the point where we're like,
yep.
And the training happens because it's like, okay, well, this is what we said we were going towards.
Yeah.
How does this fit in this picture? Because I might want to say no, but I know that's not going to help me because then another little gremlin is going to jump in and say, oh, we can't do that. Or no, I'm going to derail everything else just to do it. So we don't have time for that. So now your creative brain needs a creative way to figure out how that would work, even though we ain't going to do it right now anyway. We might be able to put it on the roadmap, but at least it gives you something to do to figure out how this is going to fit in here. And have you done what you were already supposed to do?
Well, that's a fun little trick for me too. It's like when you say like, okay, I've got that on the roadmap or like, we'll put that on the list. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm done. I'm good now.
Right. And it never
I can go right back to work. Right. That accountability is huge. And I've even noticed that with students on campus because, you know, we run those calls every single week. Like we're helping with weekly planning on Mondays. We're doing Pomodoros on Wednesdays and like helping them execute things and then blocker busters on Fridays. Just that routine of planning and checking in on like, okay, this is what you said you're going to do this week. How are you doing? And having those little check-ins it's moving people forward who were stuck for literal years.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't necessarily have to have, like, I know a lot of people see the three of us, and I've heard it from students several times now that it's like, man, I look forward to having business partners so that I can do da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, look, it's not all roses.
Yeah.
There's some hiccups along the way, but you don't necessarily have to have business partners to get that kind of accountability. You just need somebody that you can talk to that's going to, you know, not just yes man you all the time. Yes. Right? Like, oh, that sounds brilliant. Oh, that sounds brilliant. Oh, that sounds brilliant. All of the freaking time.
It's why community is so important. And I'm telling you what, the biggest trend in 2025 is going to be building communities and being a part of communities. And Christina and I started this Neuro-Spicy Academy 2 damn years ago because we were both working together. And on our last coaching call, we were like, I don't want this to end. I want to keep talking to you. And we realized that we both wanted to start a school for neurodivergent entrepreneurs. And we've been through many ideations. Ideations is the word.
Iterations.
And, you know, we've been each other's like support system and stuff, but that's also strengthened us individually to be able to go out and build those relationships with other fellow entrepreneurs, right? Like Antoinette, who's one of our mentors now. Antoinette and I just text each other out of the blue all the time. We've known each other since 2016 when we worked together at the restaurant that will not be named. And she'll just text me something and be like, all right, I think I have to raise my prices because I think this is why it's not taking off. And I'll be like, oh, that's something that I really like to hear. And it's just, you know, it's a conversation that doesn't require, hey, do you have a minute to talk? It's just like, hey, here it is. Give me your truth back when you have time for it. And if you don't have those relationships as an entrepreneur, it's going to be really hard to get where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people try and use their staff for that, right? Like, let's hold a team meeting and let's try and figure this out. And the thing is, it's not your staff's job to tell you you're being stupid.
And they're not going to most of the time.
No, it doesn't put them in a good spot.
They're not going to, because it's like, and my thing is, and why I think everyone at a certain point needs a second in command, I mean, creators especially, it's because, and one, I argue, not even have team members. They can respectfully say, ma'am or sir or whatever, this might not go the way you're thinking because of X, Y, and Z, because they're directly involved in what that was and how that might show up. So you can use your creative juices to come up with, and this is what I do all the time, because I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, how does that affect this, that, and the other? Because I'm not going to try to shut down the creativity. I'm going to channel it to, okay, these are the possible pitfalls that we would have. But when you say yes, 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 somebody, you can be totally derailing your business and a team. And I work with clients like that, where they were so afraid of, and not in a bad fear, it's just because of the way the leaders operate, that they know that it's not the best thing for the business, but it will keep you quiet. It will keep you off of their backs. And that's where my second one comes in, value, is integrity. If I know something is going to be, if it's not going to be good for the business, I'm not going to agree with it. Now, whether you do it without me, that's on you, but I'm not going to do it if I personally know or I believe strongly that this is going to be detrimental. Now, what you do with your own stuff, if you go find somebody else to do it, fine, but I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do it. And I've done that. I think my early on in clients, when I have done it, I've done it what they told me to do, even though I knew it wasn't right. It's usually when I was trying to protect them from other people. And so I did it because they're like, well, I'll go get somebody else to do it. I should have let them go get somebody else to do it. I learned that lesson the hard way, because when it falls off the rails, then they blame me. But not only the blame part, I don't feel good about it, because I knew, even though I told you this, I learned, and this is another part of learning yourself. I learned that no matter what, I'm never going, even if it's to protect them, the way I'm going to protect them is I'm going to tell them, I'm going to inform them, and I'm going to let them make the decision. If they move forward, fine, but I won't be involved in it. And so
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was always that like incredibly literal, honest, person that would tell my bosses if they were being stupid. So I just assumed my staff would tell me the same thing. And that it just doesn't work that way, right? Like most people are not wired the same way I'm wired. They are not going to just walk up to their boss and be like, look, I know you think this is a good idea, but this is a really bad idea. And you don't need to do it. Right. I was the one who would tell my bosses that. And, it's fine. But I think this kind of ties into one of our other questions that we had too. Like we can get really excited about new ideas and then a few months later realize that we've gone completely off the rails, veered way off track. So how do you know the difference between a distraction and an opportunity?
I'm going to feel like a broken record. But a distraction is something that is not leading you towards where you're trying to go. And these things happen less. It's not that they don't happen. They happen less, but then it comes into if this thing is, because once you have that clarity, you'll be able to weed out a whole lot. But let's say you have 4 or 5 things that could possibly take you in that direction. Then that's when you get into the planning and prioritization, like which, we maybe something like an ICE method or something that you can evaluate how much time, energy, resources, or whatever this one is going to take against the other ones, and how far is it going to move you closer. And if one is going to take years and it's going to be very difficult to do, but it gets you there and you don't have the resources to do it, then you naturally, that one kind of moves out of the thing. So then you go into a planning and prioritization of which one of these to focus on. And if you're trying to do all of them or you can't figure which one, you're testing and you're dabbling in all of this, yeah, you're gonna get bored with one after a little bit, and then you're gonna drop it and you're gonna pick up the next one and you're gonna drop it, and then you're back into shiny objects. It's just that they're shiny objects that are aligned now. So you do have to plan and prioritize. Melanie is great at that too.
Yeah. Well, for people who don't know, you mentioned ICE scoring. ICE stands for impact, confidence, and ease. And essentially you take your big list of ideas. This is part of it too. We don't chase an idea as soon as it pops up, right? That's a shiny object. That's a distraction.
Yeah.
So what Victoria's saying is you take a second, you plan and prioritize, you take your list of ideas that you could do, and you score them. You say like, okay, what is the impact of doing this thing? How confident am I in this impact? And how easy would this thing be to do? And what you're looking for is the ideas that have the highest impact with the most confidence in achieving that impact, that have the least amount of resources and time to do them, right? The easiest things to do that have the biggest impact. This is where you hear people talk about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, right? That 20% of what you do is going to give 80% of your results, that kind of thing. So you're looking for the things that you can do that will have the bigger impact with the least amount of effort is really what you're looking for. And in order to do that, you have to collect your ideas in a list. You can't just chase one as soon as it happens.
Okay.
And you also, to add the other guardrail to that, need to be looking at actual data in your business. You need to be actually trying to solve a real problem, not a perceived problem. Mm-hmm. When we're not tracking our data and numbers, we have this perception that something isn't working right, but we don't know what specifically it is. So we can't troubleshoot for it. Right? It's like having the bug spray man come out and spray for anything and everything in your house, and one thing is still alive, right? Because we weren't targeting the one thing that was taking over. We were targeting everything else. Right? So I think that's probably a big part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, like, is it even moving you in the direction of your mission, vision, and values? You'll get rid of a lot of them, just that. And then you score them. That's going to take a lot more out of it. And again, you mentioned the data, and I'm huge on data-driven decisions to an extent, because not everything I'm not so rigid on it, because you have to bring in the human element too, because sometimes we get so data driven that we lose the human element. That's
Well, the data doesn't tell us everything, right? Like we could have, look at 1 month and sales are down and traffic is down and all this stuff is down, but we might not realize that a new competitor opened up right up, down the street. Right. And that's affecting our business. We might not realize that, like, oh, our ad stopped working. We need to change all of our messaging. We need to change our imagery. We need to change But what we didn't realize was there was an algorithm shift.
Yeah.
There was something happened behind the scenes. It had nothing to do with anything that we're doing. And now the ads aren't performing as well as they used to. Right. So it's like data is helpful, but it's not the whole picture. And I think that's, it's important for people to understand. You still want to track it. You still want to be actually solving for real problems, but you need that ideation step. You don't need to just like assume you know what the best solution is. You have to ideate solutions. You have to rank and prioritize and score those solutions and pursue the ones that'll have the biggest impact.
With the least
least amount of effort. So I know we've only got a few more minutes left here. Let's see, what question do I want to bring up? This is a good one. When I realize I'm stuck or spinning my wheels, I tend to freeze up instead of making changes. I know I am 100% guilty on this one, and Melanie might even have some good stuff to share here, but like, what's the easiest first step to realign and to start moving forward again, right? Like when what is it called for neurodivergence, Melanie? It's a functional freeze.
Yeah, functional freeze. It's when you really just think like ADHD paralysis, where you can see every possible step that you could take and all the steps. It's like why showers are so hard for us, because it's not just get in a shower. It's go to the bathroom, take your clothes off, turn the water on, get in there, put the right music on, put the right show on, whatever it is that you do while you shower to keep your evil brain toddler occupied. Then you have to get all wet. Then you have to wash your hair. So you see every individual step. So where a neurotypical would just be like, okay, I'm going to shower and then I'm going to, get in my jammies. I'm going to go to bed. We see the thousands of steps involved in that. So when you get stuck in the ADHD paralysis and you're just sitting here like, oh my God, I'm just going to scroll because I can't actually get my body to do any of the other things. I like to focus on momentum and before and afters. What's going to give me the biggest before and after that's going to give me the biggest hit of dopamine that's going to build the momentum so I can just continue getting things done.
Yeah, and these freezes aren't necessarily big. Like I experience one almost every single night because we sit down and we eat dinner and we're watching a show and me and David are sitting there and we're watching a show and we're eating food. And at some point we need to get up and go get ready for bed and da-da-da-da. But I see every step, right? That also means all the nighttime shutdown duties, right? We need to make sure there's no clothes left in the washing machine. We need to lock the door, lock the cars, give the animals their nighttime medicines. So instead, I'm like, one more show, and then we'll go to bed. One more episode. Just one more episode. Knowing I needed to go to bed an hour ago.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's not always like this big, I'm frozen, I can't move forward for weeks and months. Sometimes it's just that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that hour where you're like, I just need one more hour before I do it. Just one more. I know. Right. I think part of it too is steps, and I forget what it was called. I feel like Chanel gave us the word on one of our other episodes, but just writing down like 1 or 2 steps, not all of the steps.
Yeah, just a tip. Just start. Just see how you feel after you wipe the kitchen counters for 2 minutes.
Yeah. And it's like just enough to get you moving.
Like progressive something. I don't know. It was a really good term.
I know. I can't remember what it is. No, it's on one of my papers somewhere. But yeah, it was like progressive planning or progressive
something or other.
Something. There was a word for it. It was a thing.
We'll put it in the show notes.
There we go.
We'll find it.
Like ChatGPT, when you're writing my show notes later, let's add that word, whatever that is. I love how you can do that now. You can actually talk to the AI that's going to help you do your stuff later. So that's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it is just to figure out what the next steps are. Sometimes it's to, get somebody else to do stuff with you. Like when I'm stuck frozen and just, I don't want to get up. I don't want to start the nighttime stuff. I want just one more episode. If one person in there stands up, like whoever's eating dinner and watching shows with us, if they stand up and get up, I'm like, all right, okay, let's go. Right. That also looks like body doubling. It looks like what we're about to do here in just a couple minutes on campus, where we get together with a couple other people and we work through some stuff. And just don't have to work alone, having somebody else just near you. If you've ever found that you can clean your room easier when somebody's in there, you can fold your laundry if somebody's just sitting in the room with you, right? That's what body doubling is all about, just having somebody else. So I think those are good strategies, along with a lot of the other stuff we've talked about too, right? If you're like, I was pretty frozen on doing stuff with the academy because it wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I kind of came back to mission, vision, values, and that kind of stuff, and that helped us move forward. And now I'm in love with it. Like,
Yeah,
I love what we're doing.
It was like, go figure that out. And then she came up with the yellow brick road, because I'm like, okay, let's not focus on all 5 levels. Let's focus on level 1.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And she came up with the yellow brick road. Brilliant. That's it.
And now we're able to start building towards that. We're able to be like, okay, these are the steps that entrepreneurs need to take. It gave me guardrails to troubleshoot within, design within, create within, find mentors within. Like, this is the mission. What mentors do we need? Right?
And you know what's
like,
beautiful about it? When the vision is that big and you break it down, you don't get bored as quickly.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to have something to work on for 10 years, let's say, right? And right now, we're working on stage 1.
It gets a little boring because, like, at least for me, because I don't have as much fun with the execution. So the ideating is done and I'm in like execution mode, and it's pretty boring hanging out in execution mode, building out all the courses and building out the yellow brick road and setting all that up. But I do get to ideate a little bit. Like, how could we improve this? How could we make sure that people walk down it? How can we, like, I get to ideate less now than I did before, but we're getting more done and we're getting better results. Yeah. And instead of, I'm a little more bored in my business life, but I'm having a lot more fun in my personal life. I've got back into gaming. I'm sitting down and hanging out. Like, me and David are playing Throne and Liberty together. My character just went over 3,000 CP. I can like one-shot the orcs now. Makes me happy.
Yay!
Melanie, like, I don't know what that means. No, it's you work at it. I'm at the grinding phase in my game, but it's a work, grinding out the solent, very similar to what you do in real life with real money. But it's, I'm having a lot more fun over there. So when I got a little bit more bored in my business, instead of trying to find more fun in my business, I'm finding more fun in my personal life. And that's the goal, right? That's what we want. We're not supposed to get all of our joy out of our business. If we do, we'll never be able to retire or take a day off.
Right.
We're trying to, our business should be fun. Our business shouldn't be something that we hate. It shouldn't be a job that we dread clocking in at. But it shouldn't be where we get all of our joy. There's a balance.
Yeah.
There's a big balance. So I know we are wrapping up. We're about to head over here to campus. Now, if you guys want to go deeper on this topic. Oh, this still says the 13th. Hang on. Real life.
Tomorrow is Melanie. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, tomorrow is Melanie. She's going to be coming onto campus. You guys can sign up at Neuro-Spicyacademy.com/events for either one of their events. Melanie's going to be doing one tomorrow on boss wardrobe. So helping you actually figure out how to plan your wardrobe, how to feel good in your clothes, how to look good, be confident, all the good things. Melanie's going to be helping you with that tomorrow. If you're sitting here looking at Victoria's topic, she's going to be helping you next week on Thursday, figuring out what does flow look like for you? What does a flow state look like where you actually enjoy what you're doing? You're not getting burned out by your business all the time. When your mission, vision, values are aligned, when you're not having all these problems, feeling frozen and stuck and not sure how to move forward all of the time, all the stuff we've been talking about today, figuring out how to actually apply that to your business, to you, your needs, your mission, your vision, your values, and what you want to accomplish. That's going to be happening next week on the 20th. So head over to Neuro-Spicyacademy.com/events. You will get an invite to actually come join us on this campus that you've heard us talk so much about, and be there with our other students, be there with our mentors, and you'll have access to that recording for a week after the live event, right? It's not going to be forever, but we will give you time. So even if you're not able to attend live, you'll have access to the recording. Although I do highly encourage you to make time to attend live, because you get to ask questions. Yeah. Right. Applying these principles to yourself and to your business and to your body and to your needs is probably one of the hardest things to do when we learn new information.
Integration.
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 And we're
It's
all
a lot
about,
easier to bridge that when you're with them live.
yeah. Especially if you're not a member of the academy.
Yep.
For now.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. We will bring you over to the dark side. We have cookies. Actually, we have dragons. So when you're on campus, you can actually have a dragon follow you around. I have one that follows me around.
Thing is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
It's something
Chicken.
or other.
Look at those chickens. Okay, we have to be on campus now.
Yep. All right. We are heading over. Make sure you head to neurospicyacademy.com/events. Sign up. We'll see you there. Bye, guys.
Hey.
Happy statues.